Welcome to the Playbook. This is David Meltzer, and I am here with the Chief Business Officer. It's Shipt, Rina Hurst. Welcome to the Playbook.
Thank you for having me, David.
I'm always intrigued with C-level executives because it seems, especially in the last few years, that we have more and more creative names that we come up with. Chief Heart Officer, Chief People Officer, and I love the generality of Chief Business Officer. What does that entail at Shipt?
It's a good question. I get asked that question quite a bit, as you can imagine. But I have a really, really awesome job at Shipt. I get to work with every single retail partner that we have. So we have over 130 partners that we work with across the U.S. My job entails finding the right partners, bringing them on board to Shipt, and then spending years to develop and grow the business together. Whether that be figuring out new solutions to meet their e-commerce needs or storytelling through our digital assets. So I have a really cool job and a really awesome team behind me that gets to make the engine work and drive the engine of growth for Shipt.
And with that, you well prepared yourself. And the landscape of education is changing. And you went to some really top tier schools. And I would love for you to share your perspective on institutional education and how it has been a positive uh, a positive experience for you as far as your career. Because when I find people who have these amazing jobs like you do, uh, I tend to see two schools. One, I dropped out of high school or college, or two, I went to the top tier schools and was able to accomplish all this because or empowered by that. Very few in between. I was wondering what your educational experience was and how applicable is it today to what you do, and how applicable is it to the people that you hire?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate, David. So thank you for saying that. And I agree. I think there's definitely two camps here. And I don't know that there's one that's more successful than the other. I think both have their own merits. But I was really fortunate. I grew up as my parents immigrated to the US in the 70s, and education was such a big part of how they raised me and what they told me about, whether it be kind of, looking at every report card I got, or even my grandparents, sitting and talking to me about like, where are you going to go to college? Where are you going to go to grad school? Right. From the age of like, when I was walking, that they started asking the questions. So it was kind of drilled in me, right, that education would be an important part of my upbringing. And so I grew up with that value, and I was fortunate with that value, and it worked well for me. So I went to undergrad at Virginia Tech. I studied industrial and systems engineering. So engineer undergrad. It wasn't my cup of tea, it turns out, because I quickly pivoted out of engineering into a more business world quickly thereafter. But it was a really great foundation. And through it, I learned a lot about data and analytics and problem solving that are just so foundational to what I do today. Later in my career, after I kind of had started in consulting and spent about 8 years in consulting, I decided it was time for a pivot. I went to Georgetown and got my MBA. And there I learned so much about how the business world works, right? And strategy, and how you can take a business to the next level, and being really obsessed with the customer, and how great marketers can make brands even greater than they are. And so, right, those foundational insights of engineering, problem solving, data, and then kind of strategy and consumer and marketing through my MBA were such a great combination that's really set me up for success in the job that I have today.
Yeah, and the company up for success too. And it's amazing because I'm so blessed to be around literally thousands of successful companies. And there's one common denominator that I find beyond the people who work there. And it's those who champion diversity. And I know it may sound trite or even, blasé to say that, but I can't tell you, I'm looking through, 80% of the household covered, 5,000 plus cities, the enormous valuation of Shipt itself and the acquisition with Target, the numbers that you guys have in 2020, the downloaded app. I mean, again and again and again, but all I could find diversity, 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 that we're championing equity, diversity, inclusion. And I really want you to reiterate why the most successful companies in the world are the most diverse and equitable compared to those that think in a scarce mentality.
I love that you know all that about our company, first of all, David, but I think like the answer is really simple. We should represent the communities that we serve. And that's the approach we take when we think about our company and the people in our company. One, it's with our Shipt shoppers. So we have over 300,000 shoppers that support our 130 retailers across the US. They are diverse. They represent the communities that we serve and shop the retailers that they love. Everything from, a CVS or a Bed Bath and Beyond, to a local favorite like Sedano's in South Florida or Cardinia's on the West Coast. So, we think about diversity and inclusion in the way we think about the retailers we serve and the shoppers that serve those retailers and our consumers. But more as important, just as important is who we staff at our headquarters, who are making the decisions about how the Shipt app works and how we go out to market and how we're going to win in this really competitive market that we play in. And we are really proud of our numbers and the way we've thought about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Of our C-suite, 6 out of 9 of us are women.
No way.
It's a really
That's
big
awesome.
number, right? And then
Huge.
within that group, 40% are diverse. And those are intentional numbers, intentional decisions that our CEO, Kelly Caruso, made as she was building the C-suite. And it transcends not only from the C-suite, but down to the teams. And the way that we think about representing the communities we serve, taking care of consumers, and making sure we're getting the right partners and consumers on our site and using our app, and taking advantage of all the great services that Shipt has to offer.
That's amazing. And yet, even with the inclusion and equity, there's still some great programmatic marketing things that you've done. One is the new preferred shopper program that you have that facilitates kind of a one-of-a-kind offering for Shipt and their customers.
Yeah, it's a great offer. And it's one way I think we'll continue to lean into the future, which is personalization. So our preferred shopper program is, I like that you called it first of its kind. I believe it is as well, David.
I've never seen one like it.
Yeah, it's cool. So I'll tell a personal story about my personal shopper, Ethan. I favorited him. He favorited me. So he shops for me all the time. He knows that my husband only likes to cook with cage-free organic eggs, that my son only drinks a certain kind of milk. He knows what kind of fruit my daughter likes, right? And so he doesn't even have to interact with me that often when he's shopping for me. And in today's environment with the out of stocks at the point where they are, right? You want a shopper who knows you and that gets you and that can smartly substitute for you when you're
or recommend. One of the
yeah,
things that
exactly.
I've utilized and seen, wow, they like get a feel for who you are, and then there's a new product or something else, and like, have you tried this?
Yeah, Ethan recommended the latest Oreos to me the other day, which maybe tells you a little bit about my personal habits. But he's so apologetic. Like the store was out of stock on cream cheese the other day, right? And I was trying to get ready to make mashed potatoes, and he was so apologetic. I was like, "It's not your fault, Ethan." Like, he took it so he takes my shopping for me so personally. It's such a personalized experience for me. So yeah, I love our preferred shopper feature. It sounds like you do as well. I think that personalization, that high level of trust and service is a way that Shipt really wants to lean in and support our communities and consumers across the US. And you'll see us continue to spend our time in building features like that into the future.
And in such a competitive landscape, the major AAA partnerships are difficult because they get hit up all the time when it's a competitive space. And to get them to choose to partner with you are game changers. And you've had some really significant partnerships with the biggest brands in our country, let alone the world. What's one of the new partnerships that you have that you think will have the most impact on Shipt and their membership?
So we just entered into a partnership with Visa. And Visa is a brand name I think most people know, if not everyone. And it's a really exciting, I'm going to go so far to call it first of its kind partnership again. I'm going to coin that term that you use,
You
David, and
got it.
keep using it. But it's a really exceptional partnership that I think will be so impactful to the future. So through this partnership, every American who has a Visa credit card in the US now has access to a Shipt membership, a free Shipt membership. That could be anything from 1 month to 3 months to 3 years long, depending on the type of card you have. And if you just go to shipt.com/Visa, type in your card number, you can see what type of Shipt membership you qualify for. But pretty awesome because it touches 250 million US households. And through that partnership, we're pretty excited about how many Americans can get to try a service like Shipt and see how it can help you in your life. I use Shipt from time to time, not only just for my family, but to send gifts. It's sometimes like a nicer way to send a personalized gift to somebody than clicking on one of those brown box services that's out on the internet. So it's just a great way for us to reach so many consumers and to get folks to try Shipt right in time for this big holiday season, but of course in the years to come as well. So it's a partnership we're really excited about for now and into the future.
And you also take very seriously your relationships with the the shoppers themselves, and you almost seems like to me treat them like brand ambassadors, and kind of the customization, personalization within there. How important are these brand ambassadors, the localization of what you do? Because you're a massive business with massive partners doing massive revenue, but yet it seems as if you take the time and the care to give that personalized touch to everything you do, including the brand ambassadorships.
I love that you said that, David. In the early days, Shipt made a bet on our shoppers as a core part of our strategy. And I think that was the smartest move that was ever made. It is such a big part of our DNA and how we show up as and be true brand ambassadors, for the retailers out there. We go through a pretty lengthy process to screen our shoppers. So, I've even joked around with retailers before to say, have you tried or applied to be a Shipt shopper? And some of them try and fail. Because if you just quickly type in the application, right, you're not going to pass our screening criteria. We look for shoppers that are detail oriented, great communicators, and love to shop. And, not everybody fits all three of those. And so the screening process involves like a communication test that you do. And there's sort of some video screening we go through. So it's a pretty extensive process, but it matters, right? So every shopper that comes onto our platform and shops for us has been vetted. We trust and feel great about. And then they go out there into the world and they represent Shipt and they represent our retailers and they become very beloved by consumers across the US.
That is awesome. Last thing I want to discuss is, I'm known as a business strategist, and I look at companies' strategies. I listen and learn from how people apply different industries, careers, and jobs with those strategies. And I heard you talk about previously a three ring strategy. And number one, I wanted to know, why did you choose to call it a three ring strategy? Like, why did you utilize the ring part? And then, obviously secondarily, what are the three rings in your strategy?
Thanks for asking. I'll start with what the three rings are, and then we can discuss if they should be rings or squares or
Yeah.
triangles.
Okay.
I'm open.
You can switch up my question. I don't mind.
I'm open to being influenced here too. I think for us, we have to think about the retail landscape every day, and it's changing each and every day. But it starts with, where did Shipt start? Like, what is our heritage? And our heritage is grocery delivery. And that's the use case and the primary reason people look to a company like Shipt. It's, I need to get my groceries delivered each week. It's a frequency business. It's something we're great at. We know how to look at avocados and pick the right avocados for you. We have really smart substitutions that help our shoppers when they're in store looking at, Cheerios is out of stock, what to buy instead. So grocery is our core and sits at the center of our ring. And we know to be successful in any market, because we cover the whole country, right? We have to look at market by market across the US. But to be successful, we need to have a core grocer in every single market. So that's our core. We start there. Our next ring or triangle or circle or square, whatever we want to call it, beyond grocery, is those next level items that are also frequency. items that consumers use, things like pet food, over-the-counter prescriptions, alcohol, beauty products, right? It's those things that are consistently being replenished in your closet, in your household, but really kind of make that next ring up. And it isn't maybe what you're thinking about every week, but maybe every month. And so we then in each market really try and surround each grocer, local beloved grocer, with that next ring of retailers. And they can be big national brands or they can be local brands. But either way, there should be that kind of variety of products for consumers. And then that, I'm calling it the outer ring, but that like last ring is those kind of, let's call it those more discretionary items that are a little bit more fun. So it's your party supplies, your consumer electronics, apparel, home goods, those seasonally relevant items that keep our business running and are really important to retail and really important to consumers, but maybe aren't needed every day, multiple times a week, or even like every month, but are key in those key moments of your life, those key seasonal moments. We want Shipt to be there for you. So it becomes a one-stop shop for all of your needs. So that's the third ring, and why I'm calling them the rings. I think it's based on closer in is more frequency, all the way out is a little bit more fun and maybe less frequent, but still important part of your life and important part of your shopping experience.
Yeah, I think ring's a perfect symbol for
All right, good.
the concentric circles that were
I'll
created.
stick with it
And I'm
then.
glad I asked because I wasn't quite sure. I was thinking more like the three rings in a circus where they were side by side, but when you explained them with the concentric ability, with the bigger and bigger on the outside, I definitely think stick with the rings. Great
All right.
strategy, by the way.
I'll stick with it. Thank you, David, for the feedback there. I
It's
appreciate it.
good. No, incredible company, Shipt. Thank you so much.